Welcome back, guys, to Deeper Than Most. I'm your host, DJ.
And I'm your host, Sav.
And we are on episode 32.
Yes, we are. And this week we are going to be covering stories of segregation and also kind of just life during those times and kind of what it was like for African Americans or just Black Americans in general.
From the perspective they should have taught you, but they didn't.
Yes, exactly. Couldn't have said it better. And also, if you are a viewer on YouTube, hello, how are you?
Hey.
If you're not, first off, I suggest that you do that soon because throughout October we will be running our next giveaway, and that's super exciting.
Excitement.
Yes, but our October giveaway is going to be YouTube only.
So, can I enter and win? So, if I win, though.
No, we can't enter and win. Cheating ass. Why would you want to do that? What? Make it make sense.
It's not even a guarantee that I'll win.
Okay. But yeah, and this time we'll be announcing our giveaway winner on YouTube. So that'll be really fun to do. And we also, as you can tell already, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are already just sliding into spooky season, really.
Yeah, man, leaves are falling.
As soon as it was September 1st, we ran to TJ Maxx and we're like, we need decorations.
If you don't go to TJ Maxx, start going.
Yeah, so we've got a pumpkin cheesecake candle, a little skeleton, switched it up a little bit, got our crystals, got that energy flowing.
And we have a pumpkin bourbon candle, woodwood candle. If you don't like woodwood candles, invest in them, try them out. You'll love them.
They're
I promise
amazing.
You.
And the thing about woodwood candles is... Excuse Harlow in the back. The thing about woodwick candles is that they sound like a tiny little fireplace, which is actually really cool.
And we also have a cool little sign, Drink of Witches. As you know, we like to drink on this podcast. This is for adults only.
Cheers. So yeah, we do have a cute little Drink Up Witches sign. So if you're drinking something with us or eating something, just chilling, we're here to have a good time and to get into all the concessions. It's like a movie theater date,
Yeah.
You're here with us, we're here with you. Everybody's having a good time. But yeah, we're having a good time, so we hope that you guys are as well. So with all of that being said, we're going to jump into the Dose of the Most for this week. Dose of the Most. I love that name. It still hits.
Yeah, it's nice.
Like the first time.
Looks good on the red, huh?
It does. Yeah.
Oh, our first Dose of the Most. Pupils and our brains. So, this is I like this one, actually. I like it a lot. It's pretty interesting. Because I didn't think this was even a thing that people were worried about. But
what, our brains or our pupils?
The fact that they're correlated, supposedly.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah. Brains, too. So, there's a new research that suggests there is a connection between the eyes and the mind.
Which definitely makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, everything's connected to the mind.
Yeah,
because the mind controls the body, so... Yeah.
It's believed that there's a link between pupil size and a certain type of intelligence. Yeah.
Now that's some shit.
Mm-hmm.
But, how do you determine something like that if our pupils are constantly changing?
Yeah, well, that's what the study was about. Why?
Oh, okay.
So, fluid intelligence is the ability to acquire information about one's surroundings on a basic level. And this is the type of intelligence that they're saying that it's linked to. And by that, it means it's largely associated with working memory and multitasking.
I'm a pretty good multitasker, I would say. How about you?
I would say so. Yeah, pretty decent.
I don't know about my memory, though.
I know that.
CIA's been brainwashing me lately. Let me stop. Damn.
Psychologist Randall Engel has studied memory for over 4 decades, and he's tested the link between pupil dilation and working memory.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome.
Who would have thought that there was a direct link, though?
Right. So the way he measured it was he would have test participants and he would measure their baseline pupil size.
Ew, how? How do you do that?
Now that, I don't know. I don't know
That sounds
how
weird
exactly you would
and
do
uncomfortable.
that. And then he presented them with a large array of different problems over a course of like several days.
Like a test.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these
Weird.
tests, yeah. He would measure their working intelligence by having them predict the last shape in a given pattern. And this is one of the tests that this is like one of two tests that he would have them do.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one was measuring their ability to ignore a distraction, aka like a blinking light, in one corner of their eye, while they focus on letters popping up in the other corner.
That's weird. How is that supposed to determine your intelligence?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Huh. Okay. It sounds more of like a reflex.
Right. But
something else? Just cognitive function?
Right. And so, with that, high scores on these kinds of tests were associated with participants that had larger baseline pupil sizes. Which would mean...
That's interesting, though. So it is linked, yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And he also,
Let me see your pupils.
And he also said that, like, people that are focusing on, like, hard math problems, their eyes tend to dilate. Their pupils tend to dilate.
Like, get bigger?
Smaller.
Ugh, it's like we're trying to focus. Like cats.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. Well, for our next little dose of the most, we have alien life and Haitian exoplanets. Is it Haitian?
I think it's Haitian, yeah.
Okay.
Sounds right to me.
Haitian planets are 2.5 times bigger than Earth. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
They have oceans and hydrogen-rich atmospheres. Ooh.
The fact that they have oceans, though,
that's cool.
As well.
But the hydrogen sounds kind of dangerous.
It's...
or at least dangerous for us.
Yeah.
In a recent study, researchers have identified that Haitian planets are incredibly abundant throughout the Milky Way galaxy, and they could host microbial life similar to the extremophiles on Earth that survive the harshest environments, i.e. shrimp, cockroaches, what else? Just parasites.
And all like
bacteria.
Small organisms and stuff like that.
Yeah. Niku Madhusudan from the University of Cambridge said, Haitian planets open a whole new avenue in our search for life elsewhere.
Which is freaking awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Because, like, come on. We know
that's proof.
Right.
And we all know aliens are real. But
right.
Y'all been playing with us. Y'all been playing. Y'all been trying to hide what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
But people were right about that whole 2020 vision stuff. Because I feel like, 2020 was definitely a year that opened our eyes.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Crazy stuff. Crazy.
It's kind of ironic how it all just happened the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just on the topic of space and different planets and just exploration, Netflix just dropped this new documentary series. Is it a documentary or is it just like a limited series?
It's just a limited docu-series.
Okay, so yeah, they dropped a new limited docu-series called Countdown. And it's about SpaceX and NASA sending the first 4 civilians, not astronauts, not people that are trained in this, but like regular people like you guys and us. Yeah. They sent the first 4 civilians to space today. Like, as we're filming this, they sent them to space today. And that would be, what is it, the 15th?
Yes.
Yeah, September 15th, 2021.
Cool stuff. And they're going to be out there for
3
days.
3 days. They get to orbit the Earth and then come back.
Damn, that's a whole flex.
Yeah.
What did you do this weekend?
That's awesome.
I went to space.
Right, but this is a huge breakthrough because that means that they're clearly focused on inhabiting other planets and that, you know, how can we figure out how to safely transport regular civilians outside of Earth? And that's literally what they just did. So I think we should give a little, you know, round of applause to
that is amazing.
SpaceX and NASA, because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's great.
2 women and 2 men, so they're out there.
In space.
That's crazy. So they'll be back in 3 days. So next week, we'll be sure to give you guys an update, if there is an update, I'm sure there would be, though.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for that. We'll let you guys know in next week's episode. But that's all we have for our dose of the most today.
And now we get into the heavy stuff.
Yeah. So everybody knows, segregation is a very heavy topic, very graphic part of history to look back on, just as the rest of American history is. Yeah. So yeah, just bear with us. Be nice in the comments. It's a very touchy subject matter, for sure.
Definitely.
So we're gonna start off with what is segregation, but we're gonna be breaking it up into 5 major aspects of life. Yeah, I feel like segregation is really just told in a very broad manner, when things were very different if you look into certain aspects of life during segregated times. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and we thought it would be very interesting, very informative, as well as, I don't know, just fun. Like, I feel like it would be fun to teach people that don't know,
right.
Just kind of like the day-to-day, what people had to deal with. And yeah, I feel like I learned a lot doing research for this.
It's a very interesting topic to look into.
Yeah,
especially like coming from knowing like what they taught you in school and then doing your own research. It's definitely a nice refresher and an eye opener.
Yeah, because what they teach you in school is nothing compared to like doing your own research,
right.
And credible research, of course. Read articles, not Wikipedia. Don't get your information from Wikipedia.
It can be changed, so I wouldn't advise.
So, okay, so we're going to first tap into life at work. During this time, there were very few labor laws, many of which did not protect or include Black workers. Many Black individuals faced hardship on the job just trying to sustain their families. Even with the mistreatment of employers and employees, it was considered to be very dangerous for Black workers to speak out against abuse in the workplace. The only way to make a stand was to simply quit. Now that's an ultimatum for you, like...
That's a fucking shame.
Because me, in today's day and age, like, if a job is not benefiting me, like, my mental health, and I'm being mistreated, like, I don't stand for jobs that mistreat their employees. I am quick to leave a job. I've never been fired from a job because I always leave because, things just eventually go downhill with companies. And that's just the truth.
And that can be per management, the work environment,
Right.
Shit that shouldn't be as bad as it usually is.
But it is. Right. So, however, with the frequent change in Black workers' job choices, whites looked at this as a bad thing. They can't keep a job and be committed to one workplace. Ain't that some shit?
I mean, yeah.
We're going to treat you shitty. We're going to abuse
and then
you,
expect
not
you to
pay
be
you.
loyal to the company.
Right. And so when you decide to leave because... you're being mistreated.
Right,
you can't keep a job. You hop around from job to job. You're unreliable. Like, it just backfires back onto the Black Americans of that
gaslighting.
Time. Hell yeah. Finding jobs as a Black person during this time was not usually a fun experience. Black workers were always given the least paid, least desirable, most dangerous, and unstable jobs.
I.e. all the jobs that white people didn't want to do.
Yeah, pretty much. White workers would often go on strike in an attempt to ban Black workers to work in white spaces. Black women were at the bottom of the barrel, only having job opportunities to work domestic labor.
I.e. house.
So, yeah. Wait, you said what?
I.e. like house duties.
Yeah, exactly. Just the grunt work, pretty much. Oh, and I don't know if we said this at the beginning, but we will also be highlighting 4 stories, like victim account stories of kind of post-segregation. So just like the years right after Jim Crow had finally been, for the most part, abolished, even though lynching is still legal till today.
Conversation we need to have, guys. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But just because like the laws had changed, the people didn't. So we definitely have some stories that we're going to jump into. They're all short stories, but they need to be told. So we're going to tell them.
So now we're going to look at life at school. While white kids were given the best of the best in terms of education, school supplies, environment, and support, they also had the best and newest textbooks. Black students in black schools were subjected to learning passed down material and outdated practices that white kids were done with. They also got hand-me-down textbooks.
And that's wild.
Completely, because it's like, how the fuck do you...
Another systematic way to...
Systematic oppression.
To oppress just the next generation of black people, the fact that they were learning outdated source material.
Yeah, I really hate it because it's like
just to keep you uneducated. Or not even uneducated, but not as educated as your white peers, which is already a disadvantage on top of you being black.
Community a huge disadvantage, even to this day, because of those people growing up.
It's still like that to this day.
And those people growing up and becoming parents and teaching their kids. It's a lot.
HBCUs are never as funded as much as, predominantly
PWIs.
white. Yeah, exactly. Same thing with private schools compared to public, even compared to predominantly black middle, elementary, high schools compared to their white counterparts these days. It's still prominent, I would say. Definitely in a different way.
Sick world, man. Sick world.
But yeah, it's all the same.
To compare the divide in school priority, for every $1 spent on a white school, only 50 cents was spent on black schools.
That's crazy.
Crazy as hell. Didn't even try.
Half. Literally half.
Right.
It wasn't even 75 cents. It was half. Oof.
Black teachers were also paid less than white counterparts. This was no secret. That's crazy.
And they had the same, the same
curriculum,
exactly.
Yeah.
But they had the same credentials, and still just weren't seen as equal.
Progressive thinking and actions were highly implemented in white schools, while at the same time, black schools were constantly being systematically neglected. It's like we said,
Not a surprise either.
Right. Overall, the well-being of white kids was on a pedestal compared to the black children. And that right there is...
sad.
Honestly, all you need to say.
But that's sad as hell because those black children are adults of today.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It really gave us a disadvantage,
Yeah. So, life at the movies. It is no question that social and public events were meant to be separate. This extended to something we all know and love today, and that is going to the movies. While white moviegoers were able to comfortably sit in row theater seats with the best views and had free range around the theater, black moviegoers were only allowed to sit in the very front row or all the way in the back on a balcony. When it came down to concessions like Coke or popcorn, black moviegoers had to sneak around the perimeter of the theater and had to go downstairs, outside, and then climb back upstairs just for a snack.
I wouldn't even want to see it no more.
I wouldn't either, but that's just so fucked up to have to think about.
You gotta go all the way around the back, around the corner, in between.
Right. I would have been like, oh, yeah, let's get the snacks beforehand.
You just have to bring them, because that's not it.
Just the fact that they weren't even allowed to freely roam the premises as their white counterparts were able to, and they had the worst seats. I don't know. It's just not fair. It's just the most.
Not at all, man.
Unnecessary.
And when you do look at pictures of segregation and you see those blacks only or whites only signs, it's like, damn.
That's real.
It's like...
Yeah, and we'll definitely be including a lot of pictures in this episode. So, eventually, black moviegoers didn't want to go to the white theaters because they got sick and tired of having to go through dark, dingy alleyways just to get an experience that didn't even compare to white moviegoers. It just wasn't the same. And I don't know, that's just so fucked up. Thinking that you had to sneak around and, trudge through alleyways at nighttime and stuff where the rats are.
Just to watch a movie. Ain't even that good.
I don't know how good they were, in the 50s or whatever.
Life on public transport. This is going to piss me off. In 1905, white civilians in Nashville, Tennessee passed a law that required segregation on buses. Allowing bus drivers the same abusive power that police had, bus conductors were able to abuse and arrest black riders at their own discretion. What the fuck?
Yep. Abuse of power.
Boy, I know you fucking lying.
That's nothing new.
What's the goddamn budget? I would try to fucking. Ooh-wee.
I swear. No, like, shit used to go down on the buses back then.
Nah, shit got crazy. Nashville was one of the last places to implement segregated transpo on a wide scale. Jesus. Due to this, black riders would boycott Jim Crow cars and eventually created their own transportation companies. Ooh.
Which is amazing.
We gotta cover Black Wall Street.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
For sure.
Let us know if you guys would be interested in hearing about Black Wall Street and kind of the fall of that whole situation.
Oh, America, huh?
Because that's a whole thing in itself.
1906. The boycott ended up costing the Nashville Streetcar Company over $90,000 in revenue, as it should. However, there was only a need for one company anyway, with the black company soon going out of business.
So in the end, the Nashville Streetcar Company, even though they lost revenue, and they didn't even say it like in the article, but I'm pretty sure the revenue lost was all of their black riders.
Mm-hmm.
So that just shows how much, black Americans were contributing to the economy, to just everything,
Exactly.
But yeah, the fact that they still came out on top, it's kind of annoying. Frustrating, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
So now we get into life with violence, and this is the fifth part to just what is segregation? What did it look like, all across the board? So prior to the end of segregation, white vigilantes had been maiming and brutally killing black Americans and other minorities in an effort to take the law into their own hands.
So these motherfuckers was acting like they just... okay.
Yeah, so all the racist movies and things that you see, like in today's day and age, like Django, 12 Years a Slave.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I almost want to say they were treating them like that, but just more modern in that time.
Yeah.
And lynching was kind of one of the worst ways.
Still is. And
just most humiliating and degrading ways to take out hatred on black Americans, to say the least.
Even with established laws in place during the end of Jim Crow, it was clear that the government was on the white supremacy side of the fence, failing to protect black Americans.
And that's not really a surprise either, honestly, because if you think about it, especially during this time, even now, what was the government filled with?
Yeah. True.
White men.
Old white men at that.
So, yeah. I mean, it's not that surprising.
Right. What's so fucked up about all of it is, up until the whole Jim Crow thing, black Americans, slaves, were considered 3/5 of a person. They weren't even, like, a person. So
how does that even make sense?
Yeah.
How do you...
Yeah, I don't know.
How do you even calculate that? Like, what? It make sense.
I don't know.
So towards the end of the century, lynching would occur every single week. Most of these victims were denied due process of the court, and the ones who were doing the lynchings would often get off scratch-free. And this was literally like in almost every case. And they were considered to be innocent. The lynchers were considered to be innocent for what they were doing.
Because it was justified.
Right.
With the government on their side, it quickly turned into a last-ditch effort to continue the loyalty from the government to the white Americans. Myths and rumors were created to taint the reps of black men. The story was that all black men were rapists, and in order to prevent future rape, lynching was a justifiable way to counteract a problem that truly didn't even exist. And
that's scary.
These guys had their little lily white wives, and their little wives were so interested in these black men that they...
even still today.
and that they had affairs with them, and when they would get caught, they would get mad. And
because think about it. If you were a white man back in that time and you caught your wife in the bed with someone like you, they'd be, I'm pretty sure you'd be upset. Like, not only did you cheat on me with, like, our neighbor Mark, you cheated on me with a black guy. Like, oh my God, and not even a whole person, like you're saying. Like, just this whole thing when it's nothing. Like, literally, there's no proof, there's nothing. Literally just to make black men look more worse than what they already saw them as. Because now it's like, oh my God, they're raping our women. And this kind of frustrates me because it makes me think of, I've met a lot of black guys like these days where they choose to only date white women. And having a preference is cool, but that's not necessarily having a preference. A preference is something that you would choose over others, but that's just not what you solely, sought out. Like, that's not what you're solely sought out for, if that makes sense. That means that you're open to other things, but if the opportunity with something in your preference were to arise, you would more than likely go toward your preference. But guys these days just be like, oh, I only like white girls, I only do this, I only do that. I don't know. It's just kind of like a slap in the face. And their reasoning is they want to do it for the ancestors and this, that, and the third. Just like trying to make jokes about it when this was not a joke, like, at all.
And if you want to be completely honest, I believe and I feel like most people that think like that, it's a lot of self-internalized, like, hatred.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't know how to, like, deal with it.
It's colorism.
Yeah, they don't know how to deal with it.
It's colorism.
There's a lot of isms in the black community that aren't addressed.
Yeah, exactly. Even in cases of consensual relations between black men and white women, this was still seen as a justifiable action for a lynching. So even if, Becky wanted to go on a date with Jerome, like, they've been talking, they've been flirting in each other's DMs, that type of deal, it would still be okay to lynch Jerome because he's black and he's still interacting with a white woman, whether she wanted Jerome or not, whether she went after Jerome or not. Becky is seen as the victim either way.
It's like, hey, what are you doing talking to that white woman?
Right, exactly. And I feel like, I hate to say it like this, but I feel like a lot of the white women in that time too would, go on these dates to be rebellious, like knowing what would happen and knowing, in that moment, if it were happening or whatever, I don't think that they stood up for them.
Oh, hell no. And it's just like today, even if, your
police brutality.
Your white friends get in trouble, a lot of them deny it. Like, oh, I don't know, like, what he was doing, but I was doing this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So around this time, a thing called what does that say?
I don't know. Miscegenation. I don't know. Miscegenation?
No, that's not it.
That's what it is, though. It's something. It's like miscegenation.
Around this time, a thing called miscegenation laws were put in place to forbid blacks and whites to marry or have legit kids. These laws were finally abolished in the mid-'60s.
Yeah, so they, I'm sure they could go on, like, if there were, like, interracial couples, I'm sure they can go on, like, claiming, like, we love each other so much that we are married in our eyes. And, of course, they would still have kids, but just in the eyes of the law, it wasn't flying.
The law, people, the law.
Yeah, so, but these laws, like you said, were finally abolished in the mid-'60s, which is a long time after it began.
Yeah.
And wasn't even that long ago from today.
Right.
Not even 100 years.
Sick stuff, man. Sick stuff. The fact that interracial marriage is
taboo.
Yeah.
So, now that we have kind of gave you guys the rundown of different parts of life during segregated times, whether it comes down to work, school, everyday curricular activities, getting to work, transportation, things like that, we're going to take the time to thank our sponsor, and Anchor.
See you soon.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free and it's easy to use.
There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast straight from your phone or computer, making it the best user experience around.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more, making it so you don't have to upload to each individual platform.
And the best thing about it, you can make money straight from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
So please, download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. And that's anchor.fm, spelled ANCHOR.FM.
So what are you doing? Download the free Anchor app now.
And we're back.
All right. So we have our 4 short, accounts. Not necessarily stories, but just moments in Black Americans' lives from their own mouths. So, well, I guess technically ours, because we're relaying the message. But it wasn't like from the counterpart perspective. We'll put it that way.
Right.
So the first incident is involving a woman named Helen Owens. She is currently approximately 57 years old, I believe. I forgot when the article came out, so... and she was from Banta, California. Living in desegregation times in California, Helen experienced blatant racism as a child. One particular incident had stuck with her entire life. This incident was a time when the father of one of Helen's friends ordered the young girl to stop spending time with Helen. His reason was because Helen was Black. Helen recounted how this interaction made her feel during that time, stating, "That was the worst thing that ever happened to me in terms of being a little girl and hearing for the first time that someone really didn't want me around because of my skin color."
Shit's sad, man.
Yeah.
Sad as fuck.
And the fact that kids were subjected to it as well, it's kind of like
right.
A slap in the face. She continued with, not because of not because of my character, not because of the person I was, but because I was Black. Helen has also said that she believes back then and now, people don't like to talk about painful experiences similar to hers, because they'd rather not acknowledge that racism exists in daily life. Helen also says we need to look inward before the nation can heal from the damages of the past together.
Complacency and ignorance, white people.
Whoa,
Not
chill out. I was gonna say words of wisdom. Definitely some words of wisdom from this woman.
I'll say what I say.
Okay. So yes, that was the first story. Just fucked up. I don't know.
Always.
Just unnecessary.
Yeah. So we're gonna look at our second incident, and this deals with Mrs. Myra Goodman Smith from Richmond, Virginia. In the late 1960s, she was a member of the Girl Scout troop at Second Baptist Church on Idlewood Avenue. She recalls the time during her childhood when Richmond was being ordered to begin school busing. She would see protesters, signs, hear racist comments, and see rocks thrown at her dad's car on her way to school. She said that she did not understand why the white kids did not want to go to school with kids like her, and it scared her. She recalls her troop leader, Mrs. Brown, reassuring her and the other kids that nothing was wrong with them and to believe in themselves. She said, we deserved a good education and that we were not any less intelligent or capable.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is.
It's good to know that there were Black teachers and Black educators back then that
definitely
cared and that
and they weren't afraid to just be like, to
teach the next generation what was really up. Hell yeah. So that brings us on to incident 3. We're flying through these. So incident 3 is Shelly Sumter, who is 69, from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Shelly recalls a time when a white woman had accused her and her family of being in the wrong place.
What the hell that mean?
Right. And what led her to believe this? Shelly and her family's race, of course. One day, Shelly's family were on their way to the cemetery to visit a lost one and had lost directions.
Wow.
Yeah. Not being able to locate their destination, they stopped and decided to ask for directions. The woman looked at Shelly and her family and explained that there were no Black people buried there, and that their family member could not have been buried there.
Bitch.
Right. Like, who are you? Who are you to, say something? Who are you to tell us? Shelly also mentioned how when her and her family finally made it to the cemetery, the woman who had berated them prior was shocked when she saw the family placing down flowers. So she was wrong.
Wrong as hell.
Literally wrong. And just because they were Black, she felt They didn't need to be here.
You're never really lonely.
Never lonely. Shelly had even waited for the woman to see that she was wrong. Over the years, the two, once segregated, families are friends and still keep in touch. Isn't that crazy?
I wouldn't even want to.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, but to each their own.
Hey, man.
They probably changed, hopefully. I would hope. That would be... That's the goal, you know?
Right.
For people like that. So, Shelly also stated that the woman and her husband will place flowers on the graves of Shelly's loved ones on occasions when Shelly or her family aren't able to do so.
I don't think I would trust that.
Having them put the flowers there?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they went out their way to do it, like when her family couldn't make the trip, I guess, I don't know. So, yeah, that is Shelly's story. And it's pretty sad. Like, and she was a kid as well during this time. So, just having to run into a woman like that, and the fact that she even knew that this woman was wrong, and was like, look, you gonna see us putting these flowers down.
Right. Our last account is Mr. John Dorman. He attended Armstrong High in his youth. He recalls being angry about the way blacks were being treated during the 60s, and this caused him to act on it and join the Richmond Protests. For those of you who don't know what the Richmond Protests are, they are the protests in Richmond, Virginia that involve sit-ins, walkouts, boycotts of different shops and places.
And if we can find pictures, we'll include those. Honestly, is it weird to say that I feel like protests back then were crazier than what we've been dealing with the past year?
They definitely were.
Like, yeah, these protests the past year and a half have been a little intense, but I don't know, man. They were really fighting for their rights back then. They were serious.
Getting like sprayed down with a water hose and dogs getting sick.
Yeah, that's inhumane as hell. Yeah, honestly.
So I would definitely say they had a little.
But this is our America the Great. Cheers.
Great America, huh? Miss America.
Yeah. Oh, you ain't gonna cheers me? Wow, you just be leaving me hanging. What is this? We're the host of Deeper Than Most. We're supposed to be the closest, the mostest, and the boastest. Wow, you don't never entertain my bullshit. You see this, y'all?
As I mentioned, the protest involved boycotts of many shops and places and the Richmond sit-ins as well. John joined the army and was sent to Vietnam. And, that's a whole thing. He said, I left for Vietnam, and even though we were fighting the Viet Cong there, we still had racial tensions just like back home.
Yeah, they all did, even in the war.
Right.
Fighting for the same thing, but still not being there for each other, you know?
In a place where you really need it.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's almost like you're fighting a war within somewhere else.
Always.
So, yeah, those were our 4 incidents, our 4 real life incidents of stories of segregation, desegregation times, or post segregation, I guess. Mm-hmm. And just kind of what life was like what people had to deal with just day to day. Just unnecessary treatment, to say the least. I don't want to get too political on this here podcast episode, but yeah. Maybe we should open a Patreon where we get, like, real nitty-gritty.
I'm down for it.
Maybe on, like, episode 100. Who knows?
Hey, just
know we got some things in the works. So, we're going to carry on over to our ending questions. And the first one is, do you believe some form of segregation still exists in today's world? Whew. Yes. And in many ways, and not just racial ways, but when it comes down to sexual orientation, when it comes down to gender itself, when it comes down to other minorities, when it comes down to social classes and tax brackets, I feel like it's just shown in different ways. Social media.
Very systematic segregation.
It's very clean and clear cut these days, though.
Mm-hmm.
But it's different than blacks can't go here, whites stay there. you know?
It's a very, I guess you could say, unspoken thing nowadays.
Yeah.
So, like...
It's more under the radar.
Yeah.
For sure. Just like racism itself is.
Mm-hmm. Until here recently, you know, that don't sound
Was that a fucking bomb?
That don't sound too good.
Or like a car crash?
Yeah, that sounds like one of those two.
What the fuck?
And what the hell really going on? So next time you see us, guys, we'll be in Washington.
Oof.
So, question number 2. After hearing these stories, does it change your view on society? Well, let's see. I wasn't really too hopeful to begin with. But,
Right, yeah.
But it definitely gives me a deeper look into what society really is.
I think it gave me a deeper look on what society really was.
Yeah.
Because I know what society is today. I'm living in it. And I would like to say that I'm very open and in tune to everything that's going on in the world right now. But it's very hard to get a clear picture of what it was really like back then. I mean, yeah, you can watch a documentary, you can, learn about it in school, but I think nothing beats a victim's testimony.
Right.
And just something that actually truly happened from their own perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And not just from a book smart person's perspective or a scientist's perspective or a therapist's perspective, but literally
actual live
people.
Experience.
Yes. So, third question is, do you believe integration was the best solution?
And what's your answer to that one?
I say yes, because it is needed. We've been able to accomplish so much with it that if we were to just simply not look at that as an option, America today would look very different, I think.
Definitely.
I think it would look very similar to what it still was. Probably worse, though, in today's climate.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Me personally, I believe integration was the best solution because you need to be exposed to other people and other things.
Yep. Different viewpoints, different walks of life, different experiences, different, strengths, different weaknesses, different thought processes, literally everything. So, yeah. Different people have different things to offer. That's the best way to put it.
Definitely. And the last question, would you want to revisit a time like this?
Ooh, so go ahead.
Me personally, if I had the ability to time travel and go back and just see it and just see what it was for
like
what
be
it
a
was.
fly on the wall?
Yeah, if I could be a fly on the wall, I'd do it.
Makes sense, because why would you want to revisit it to live through it?
Right.
That would be tough.
Right.
Especially knowing that you got to come back.
Right.
So for me, I would want to revisit a time like this for sure, but this definitely isn't the only time that I would want to visit.
Right.
But just to see firsthand what shit was like. That would be a very eye-opening experience for sure. I would also want to revisit 9/11 that day and be in New York, somewhere near the towers, not in the towers per se, but just being able to see something like that and see how it truly affected people. I feel like major events or just major parts of history, I feel like the only way to truly understand it is to be there for yourself.
Exactly.
Because none of us will ever really understand. Just like future generations to come probably won't understand, what it was like before, people that were gay were able to get married. We actually lived through something like that. And the first black president, we lived through shit like that. The rise in police brutality.
A lot of firsts.
They're not going to be able to truly know. I mean, of course, they can learn in the future, but they didn't live what we lived. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
And, shit like this will continue.
That's how it works.
Yeah, it will just continue because...
There's always going to be something major in every lifetime.
As much as I hate to say it,
it's inevitable.
We're just bound to disagree about a lot of things.
That too.
And racism and religion are those two things,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. especially with racial tension still being a thing.
Yeah.
It's not going away anytime soon, I don't think. But I guess that's it for episode 32.
That does it, guys.
Wow. Getting on up. Getting on up there. You're empty.
Hell, that was my last drop. So
That's really good. So, any last words, any kind words, any updates, anything coming up soon? I'm trying to think.
last words, kind words. If you or someone you know has been affected by 9/11 or anything like that, my prayers and my best wishes go out to you and your families. It's a very tough time for everyone that was involved, so I really hope that you guys are holding up okay. And that's what I got.
For sure, yeah, it did just pass. When times get tough, turn to yourself. Because if nobody does, you should always have your own back. And that's kind of what I live by. Anybody in the world could turn their back against me, but I've always got me. So hold on to that, because it's really important.
It's really important. Really, really important. Get to know yourself. Get to understand why you are the way you are.
And I got stolen from last week, guys. That's why our uploading was just all out of whack. My laptop was stolen and a whole bunch of other things. So I had to get a new one. I'm trying to decorate with stickers. So yeah, and he will be getting a new one too soon.
Yeah, soon. So just
and guess what that means?
Just keep a lookout. Just cool stuff coming.
Exactly. That means that, something better is coming in the works. The quality of our show is going to progress. And I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We love you guys. And thank you guys for taking the time to tune in. Stick with us for 32 episodes.
32 episodes. And that means we have 31 other episodes that you need to check out.
Yes.
Watching on YouTube, check them out. See which one you like.
Right.
Leave a comment.
Or tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, anything. Anything, your favorite podcast platform, we're on it. That's us. Deeper than most.
And with all that being said, I've been your host, DJ.
And I've been your host, Sav.
Stay light, stay bright, and stay positive, my Cosmonites. And we'll catch you next week on
Deeper Than Most.